Case study 103572. Patient seems to claim to switch body to body. Claims to be able to possess others and have others possess them. Claims a single demon. A demon with a mind of its own. Claims to have absolute no control. Maintains seizure-like episodes in between switching personalities. Last victim. Sprayed blood from the neck like Niagara Falls. Maximum confinement at all times.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to 31 Days of Horror. I am Morgan Film Fan. Let's jump into some scares. Suitable Flesh is one of the newer films that I'm reviewing this year, coming out in 2023. This is starring Heather Graham. I remember this premiering at the Fantastic Fest when I first heard about it, and then it got a wider release throughout the 2023 year. And this one was pretty talked about in the horror community, and I heard a lot of great things. Going into this film, I expected one thing. I certainly got another. Now, I had a good time with this film, and I can say that I enjoyed it for the most part. I loved the blood effects. There's a lot of blood splatter in this film, and it's fantastic. I think all the performances pretty much all around are really well done. I think Heather Graham does a great job. I think the guy who plays the young guy, because there's basically Heather Graham's character plays a psychiatrist, and she's treating this patient who's this younger man, and then he does phenomenal in his role. And then we got Barbara Crampton in here as well, who she's famous for Lovecraftian films back in the 80s and I think 90s, and she's known for them. I haven't seen a ton of them, so I definitely don't recognize her really by face, but the name Barbara Crampton definitely rings a bell, and I know she's, crazy famous for those kind of horror films. Now, what we have going on here basically is, like I said, Heather Graham is a psychiatrist, and she's treating this kid, and he comes in, and he's showing basically paranoid schizophrenic tendencies, and he claims that someone is trying to enter his body, which is the basic number one indicator, red flag for, he's being molested. And he says, like, his dad's trying to get inside of him and stuff like that, like really on the nose things. And then he starts to, like, wig out, and he says, like, oh, it can't happen again, it can't happen a third time because then it's permanent, yada yada yada. And then he basically goes into this, like, epilepsy mode, and for like 5 seconds, and then he comes up and he's like a different person. He's possessed, right? So Heather Graham takes this as like split personality, paranoid schizophrenic, psychosis. She starts to try to diagnose this kid, and for some reason she finds a very strange obsession with him. And this film gets like hypersexual, especially with its its dialogue and its interactions between characters. Like they get very hypersexual, especially because this deals with a demon that body swaps. When the people are in demon mode, they just go full sexual. Like they just get super horny and just want to, like, seduce everyone and everything. But she finds this strange fascination for this kid, and this is like even before she gets possessed herself, and she goes to his house and she starts breaking all the rules of being a psychiatrist, and like she starts to break her own codes and take her work home, and her poor husband has to deal with her, and he's like a charming funny guy. Like he's that quirky, like typical dad kind of personality. Works out a lot, takes care of himself, loves his wife, and here he is just thrown in the middle of all this bullshit with this, body swapping demon. But yeah, the way Heather Graham just starts to become obsessed with this much younger guy and just want to be around him all the time and want to fuck him all the time, it just gets really crazy. I think his performance is fantastic. He did a great job being able to play different characters, like his own personality and then the demon personality, and he gets very seductive himself when he's in the demon personality, and it's really, he's really good at it. He's really good at it. And yeah, it's a body swap film, so you get, you know, inspirations from other things. I got sprinkles of Autopsy of Jane Doe in here. I got sprinkles of Freaky Friday in here, obviously, because, you know, body swapping stuff. It's it just, the best way I described this film when I got to the middle of it, I was like, this feels like a Hallmark drama, but horror. And what I mean by that is it feels like a TV movie, and there's this weird like cheapness to it, and it feels made for TV. The whole thing is narrated by Heather Graham because it starts with her in the mental ward, and then she's telling the story of what led up to that, which I'm kind of mixed on. I don't really like that direction that they took, but when she's speaking, it just feels like a Hallmark movie. It's like what you would typically see in a Hallmark movie that's like a romance or a drama, except in this case, this is horror. It's done in the horror style. But I don't know. It feels TV movie, and it must have been done on purpose. Like, I don't think that was an accident for Suitable Flesh. I think that was the creative style that the director wanted to go with for sure. Joe Lynch directed this. Actually, I just noticed that. I didn't even read that. Read up. I didn't read that before. I didn't know Joe Lynch directed that. That's pretty cool. But I definitely think it was a creative choice on his part. This is also a Shudder movie, so it was released. I don't. Might be a Shudder exclusive. Could be a Shudder exclusive actually. And it's based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. That's why they got Barbara Crampton in here, from the From Beyond, and I don't know if she was in Reanimator or not, but those H.P. Lovecraft adaptations kind of thing, which she was famous for. This is also based on a H.P. Lovecraft novel. So it was very, very mixed. I gave this a 2.5 because there's things I loved about it and there's things that I just wasn't a big fan of. But by the end of it, it starts to pick up steam on the second half, and by the end of it, in its climax, it starts to get really, really good. And I loved the gore effects. The practical effects are great. The blood, I mean, like, you're talking like spray of blood when necks are slit. There's one decapitation scene that the young guy does on somebody, and it's just like, you're talking like, I mean, they must have used buckets and buckets and buckets of blood, and it's spraying all over the place. Like, you're talking good blood sprays, and I like that shit. And then, by the end, you have like bodies mangled and everything, and the effects look great on the mangled bodies. But it's also, like I said, it's a very hypersexual movie when it comes to the dialogue. There's not a ton of like sex, like nudity. Like, there's not a lot of graphic sex in here, but it's a lot of like seduction and touching and sex scenes that, comparing to other movies, are tame, but the themes of it are very, very hypersexual. So that's basically what I got on it. I thought it was middle of the road, but it was still entertaining, and I still had a good time with it. I was expecting more, though. Like, I was expecting something else. That's the biggest thing about the film. I was expecting something, and I got something different than I was expecting, but nothing terrible. Like, it didn't disappoint me or anything like that. It just was different than what I thought I was going into originally. So yeah, that's what are we, day 21 now. Yeah, it was a cool watch. Day 21, 31 Days of Horror. Stay tuned for more. Day 22 is coming up real soon. And check out what's on the channel already for this year's 31 Days of Horror, and check out the previous years of 31 Days of Horror. And I will be back with more spooky stuff. So until then, keep things spooky. Take care. Till next time, cheers.